Hello everybody, this is Ashutosh and I'm going to talk about Linux command. So why Linux command? Linux commands helps in understanding the relation between programs and OS. We often move towards a problem like in files or so we really need to understand the operating system at that moment. So it is very fun to learn it and it is very helpful in our careers. So without any further ado, let's get started. So this is the roadmap through which I'm going through. So first is we would set up the Linux machine using VirtualBox. You can set up using Google Cloud Console. You can practice the Linux commands using RAPL, and if you want something experience or more experience you want, then you can use Yumi tool. So then then we would move to Linux history, how it come into existence, and then we would move to the interfaces. So how we would interact with the Linux, do we get into uh, do we get interacted to CLI or GUI. So what is shell, what is terminal emulator, we are going to cover. And the first keystrokes, what we are going to type there. And then we would do some simple Linux commands, and then we would exit to our Linux session. We would learn. Okay. Then then we would navigate through our Linux terminal, and then we would we would be knowing what is absolute path and what is relative path. Then we would move to some ls options. Then we would cover some of the file manipulation commands, and then some of the examples on copy, move, and remove. That would help you a lot in getting started with Linux. So let's get started with our first topic, that is Linux history. Or let us first set up our Linux machine. So how do you set up the Linux machine? So you can set up using this link. I would provide the this link in the video description. Then you can also use the GCP, in which there is no setup required. You just have to sign in up, and you are free to use whatever Linux command you want. Okay. So so next is REPL. It is more beautiful version than GCP. So it is also same as GCP, and you can easily use it by logging in. So it is really easy nowadays to use Linux. Feel free to use the RAPL or GCP. Or but here here with the lack of resources, I would use some other resources, I would use Termux. That is also a great resource if you are using Android system. Or just so what is RAPL? So RAPL is a San Francisco based startup. It is a online integrated environment. So you can use it for different languages like C, C++, Java, and that's it. So moving toward the Linux history, so how it come into existence. So Linux grew through the 1990s because of the efforts of hobbyist developers. It was developed by Mr. Linus Torvald in 1990s. So although Linux is not very user friendly as Microsoft Windows you may probably be using, or Mac OS operating system, it is efficient, reliable, and rarely crashes. Okay. Combined with Apache's open source web server, Linux accounts for most of the server used on internet. Because of its open source thus modifiable to users, Linux is popular for systems as diverse as cellular telephones, supercomputers. So Linux is everywhere. Linux is like just everywhere in your smartphones, in your supercomputer telephones, or Google's Chrome OS. So even in Windows. So everything is Linux now. The addition of user-friendly desktop environment office suites like you use like Google Sheets or Google Slides, so and games on Google, so they increase the popularity of Linux operating systems. So back in the 1990s, some of the most popular distributions are like Namex Linux, Manjaro Linux Mint, and Ubuntu. So moving toward the interfaces. So interfaces can be CLI and GUI. So CLI means you have to type in commands, or GUI means you are lucky and you have to just click you would see the menus, and you would get to interact with the menus, icons, like that. So let us move to the definition. So GUI lets a user to interact with the system or device with the help of graphical elements like windows, menus, and icons. The CLI, on the other hand, lets a user to interact with the device systems with the help of their command. Just I have said, like you have to type the commands from which you can interact with the system, and it is really fun in CLI. If you use CLI, you or if you have studied the operating system, you would love CLI. Literally, you would love CLI, and you would find the little details like other user just neglected. You would notice the details in CLI and how the resource gets shared, how the memory is being used in RAM, all these stuffs. So, what is shell? You are probably seeing this shells. No, it's not like meaning like that. So shell is a software program that takes the keyboard commands and passes it to the operating system to carry out some certain operations. So like if I want to know what directories I have in currently, so I would type in ls command, or it would traverse to the current working directory and print it to my console. So it is a operation, it is a certain operation. So I pass in the ls command, so this shell would check, so if there is some error in my code or not. If there's some error, it would provide me error. So let us see it practically. So if I type randomly, if I type randomly anything, so it would say no sir, so no command fine. So if I am typing ls, so yes, it is valid command. So moving toward our topic, so we are passing the commands to the shell. uh, we are writing commands, and it is passing to the shell, and shell passing it to the operating system, right? Then what is terminal emulator? So right, we have discussed the shell, we just type commands in shell. So actually not, we type commands in terminal emulator. So when we using the GUI system, we use a GUI tool called terminal emulator that emulates the shell to us, or you can say it passes the command, just passes the command to the shell, and shell executes the gives the commands to the operating system and carry out the certain operations, right? So KD uses the console, and you have used the may use the different terminals, and GNOME uses the like Ubuntu uses the GNOME terminal and console, and KDE KDE Plasma you may probably have known. So this type of prompt you would be seeing in Ubuntu. So like first is the username, and the at the rate is like a separator. Then I have written Linux box, that is the machine name, and then a tilde mark. If you can see, there is a tilde mark, that is current working directory. Then this dollar symbol is the standard user. So we have also a user named root user, so which have certain more privileges than a standard user. So we would talk about it later. So let us write some commands. We have talked a lot of theory. Now move to the practical part. That's also important. So there are some simple commands you can type in and get started to Linux. So if I am typing date, so it would provide me the date. Okay. So if I am providing cal, it would provide me the calendar of the current month. So if I am telling or providing it like parameter of the year, it would like 2019. Okay, so it may be valid to wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute. So so if I provide the year, it would print whole year, like you can see. So we just did the date and cal command. So we have a df command. So df means disk free. So disk is our hard drive. So it may be some messy to you, it is really big. So as you can see, file system 1k block, used memory, available memory, and used percentage. So what amount of memory is used, and you can see, so all the things started from root. So I would talk it a little bit about it. Okay, so the command you would be using to get rid of this mess, you would be using simple command known as clear. Again, clear. So it would clear the screen. And the next command I would be using is history. So it would provide me the list of commands I have typed. So I have typed something 28 commands right now. So I can again clear it. So moving back to the, so I can also use free command. So free command is for our RAM. So if it is visible, it is memory. So that is memory, and swap memory, if you have studied about studied in the operating system, swapped memory. And it is talking about the what amount of free memory we have, and what is shared memory, and so what memory is available. So that is all about the some simple commands in Linux. and we have some more commands, like we have talked about history and we have talked about clear. So just we would talk about whoami and echo. So what is whoami? That is, who am I? So so we are asking, hey Linux, who am I? So it would eventually say, hey, you are. Let us let us jump into terminal to know who are we. So let us big up our screen and let us ask Linux, who am I? Sir, who am I? So it is providing me some ID or a user ID here. So usually it is the username, it can provide me Ashutosh, or sometimes it may be root, likewise. Okay, so we have another command, that is echo. So echo, I'm saying Linux terminal. Let us see if it is work. Yes, Linux terminal. So now we have question, we have entered in the terminal. So now how to quit the Linux section? So that's really easy. So we can quit the Linux session using exit command. So we can navigate through our Linux. So how do we navigate through the Linux? So we have certain commands, like we have pwd, we have cd, we have ls. So let's jump into terminal to see. So now let us try out our pwd command. So when I write pwd command, it printed me like /data/data, like com dot termux /files /home. So it just print the working directory. Okay, so it would lead you when you lost in Linux. So we have another command known as ls. Is used to list the directories we have. Like we have desktop, we have download, we have a termux style, we have documents, we have pictures. these are these are all the these are all folders like we see in GUI. So if I want to go in desktop, so I would just say like that. So I am in desktop. So how to find I am in desktop actually? So I can do pwd command, you can see I am in desktop only. So if I want to return back, if I want to return back in the home directory, what I can do? So I have this, I have two we have two things, like cd dot means the current directory. Actually it has no use, so it would do nothing. Like if I do pwd, it is doing nothing. Then if I do dot means the previous directory. So if I do previous directory, so I'm in the previous directory. Like just we have um, so that was about navigation in Linux. Hmm. So now we are going to understand about absolute path name and relative path name. So, what are absolute path name? So, absolute path name are the path names from, so where the directory starts with the root itself. So you can understand it practically as well as from this tree structure. If I move through the root and home, and I move to some user like Corey, so I can go like that. If I am in Corey user only, then I can able to access the files on that are present in the current working directory only. So that is about absolute and relative path. We can also do from terminal. So let's jump into terminal. So now let us understand the relative path and absolute path. So if I ls, so I have desktop pictures and like that. So if I cd to this, so this would be the relative path. So I can do this like that. Or if I pwd, simply I am in this. So the magic here is I can get back or get uh, so I can go everywhere, anywhere using this. So if I am writing the whole path, so like just wait a minute. So if I type in whole path, if I enter this, so where am I? That is pwd, like I am in the home directory itself. So that is the difference between relative path and absolute path. So that is all for this video. Thank you.